Welcome back. You're watching South Africa Open for Business. Let's now shift focus to policy and the greater African market. Roshene, I'm sure you can put it into perspective for us. We look at an increasing business environment on the continent, and we know that South Africa is used as a springboard to go into the rest of the African continent. What kind of flows are we seeing? Is it still about business, or are we starting to see a tourism element also emerging?
Well, when you look at land arrivals, mainly people are coming in for shopping. Okay, but so they come in and they spend 1 or 2 nights across the border. However, if you look at the air arrivals that are coming out of Africa, there's a lot more business travel plus leisure travel attached to it, because people come in for a meeting for 1 or 2 days and then they spend a weekend going around the country, you know, so you're finding that there's a lot more opportunity with the air arrivals to look at holidays. But we are now expanding and trying to get more holiday travel out of Botswana and Mozambique in terms of land tourists, and Nigeria, Kenya, looking at hubs for East and West Africa, and of course Angola.
And of course that's starting to create a more conducive environment for those wanting to come into the African continent. I know, Gillian, you were saying off air, talking about the cost of building a hotel on the rest of the African continent. It's a very costly exercise, and that could in fact deter people from coming into the continent, because it's going to be more costly than going to an already existing tourist destination.
Well, you've got to look at Africa, and it's very different to South Africa as a destination. Some of the African countries have got a leisure tourism and a business tourism, business travellers and business conferencing type of industry. But a lot of the African countries like Nigeria, like Angola, really only have business tourism at the moment, and it's the business tourists they're trying to attract or that requires to go there, and there's not much discretionary travel in those places. So the fact that it does cost a lot means it can be difficult for the hotel operators who see opportunities in Africa, because Africa, outside of South Africa, has a stronger GDP growth at the moment and greater propensity for business travel, and there's a shortage of accommodation. What we need to do is attract those African people. If you take a Nigerian, for instance, the Nigerians don't travel domestically in their country, and if they want to go somewhere, they think it's Paris and London that they should go to. We have to change that concept or that perception and say Cape Town is just as good, Joburg is just as good, come here and spend your time and your dollars and brag about coming here just as you would have bragged about going to London.
Your Africa plan, what is your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Do you think that we can actually get it right? And it's a very interesting point that Roshene also mentioned, that we're viewed as a shopping destination in a sense.
I think the Africa plan is very simple. I mean, the biggest thing, you know, for us is South Africa, and I think as a continent, it's the air access is our biggest problem. You know, and it's the African traveller has long been identified in the UN WTOs and the World Travel and Tourism Council that Africa is the next emerging market, both from a travelling point of view and also from a business point of view. And so what we need to do as South Africa, I think a lot more cooperatives, you know, getting into those markets like Angola, Nigeria, DRC, it's another market we need to look at. And so as the industry, we're very ready for that, to be able to support the work that South African tourism is doing, so that we do the fulfillment once the proposition has been made. But air access is a big issue for us, and Gillian earlier on mentioned about investment in those areas. And let's understand, for me, from a business point of view, a lot of our hotel operators are going there because, let me tell you, while the cost of building or getting established yourself there are high, the returns are just as great.
Domestic tourism is really the backbone of any sustainable tourism model. The Shot Left campaign encourages South Africans to explore their own country. It's all about changing perceptions and attitudes. Let's take a look at one such campaign.
We woke up in Jersey, but man, look where we're rolling now. Normally people are staring at us, but out here, they're just staring at the views. Sometimes you just gotta get out of town. You know, change your surrounds, do something new.
Okay, Roshene, lovely. And I know that it was essentially your brainchild, so tell us a little bit more about that, because you've got to encourage South Africans to go and explore South Africa.
Absolutely. Across the world, everyone knows you have to have a sustainable domestic tourism market to keep the tourism industry going. And you know, here it's our corporate market that does that currently, but we've got to get more leisure travel amongst the domestic market. It's the only way we are actually going to thrive as a tourism industry. And what we've been doing is we've really been promoting the 9 provinces and showing our own people what's there to do, because we seem to know very little. I mean, people sometimes don't know where the Drakensberg is, and they live in Johannesburg, so they don't know what's on offer there, or they know very little about Mpumalanga. So our campaign is really about education, information, and having deals out there that are affordable for the domestic market. And we know that people travel differently. When they travel, they would rather have a room rate than, you know, have a per person per day rate. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that we're talking to the industry about. And, you know, people want added value to it. So it's about what is the experience that I can have. We're finding that some of the work we're doing at the toll gates, for example, giving out vouchers for travel and experiences, is really working very well. We're also going out to corporates and encouraging them to travel and explaining to them how people need to do it, what deals are available.
So you've seen the impact already?
Yes, we definitely have. We've had about 25 million people actually that have been reached through our campaign on TV. And then if you add where we're getting, the number of people we're getting to online and radio, it's almost double that.
Exciting stuff. Gillian, you want to add?
I think it's working very well, but I think we've underspent in this area again, and I've heard Roshene say it as well, so she knows she would like much more budget. If we really wanted to mobilise domestic tourism, and a domestic tourist is a person who starts to understand tourism, they understand giving good service, they understand hosting of foreigners, so it has these dual benefits. It gives them a quality of life experience, as well as helping them be better at tourism ambassadors for our international tourists. So it's something that they
would you like to see more ad campaigns? In what form would you like
at the end of the
money
day
to be spent?
I think it's more ad campaigns, it's more directed marketing, but I think we probably need to spend money on stimulating some aspects of product and supply. There's a World Tourism Organization theory about social tourism, which is helping people of lower income levels to travel as tourists. And I'll be honest, I think the private sector has been somewhat myopic, or they've avoided tailoring their products for the domestic market. So for that bulk of the middle of the domestic market, there isn't really the product or the distribution systems for them in a big way. And South African tourism has been doing it, but the private sector product makers haven't come to the party.
What's exciting about this, we've spoken about the challenges and we know what the hindrances are, but the point is that we're starting to make headway. And I suppose if we weren't in an environment where there was a deterioration in sentiment on a global level, perhaps tourism would be kicking up even quicker and more aggressively. You said you're quite comfortable about what 2012 looks like. Give us your sentiments and assumptions for the next year, and how the little money that we have being pumped into the tourism sector is going to create better traction globally.
Well, I think for 2012, the optimism really comes from the recovery on the corporate market. We have seen some amount of traveling beginning to happen. And when people say the industry is doing well, Elaine, I think that's understand. It's not everybody. The car rental industry is doing well. The airline guys are doing well, and what we call the attraction sector within South Africa is doing well. Your game reserves, you will battle today to get into any of the national parks. And so for 2012, we really look forward for corporate fully recovering. We look forward to the international arrivals, our traditional customers coming back, but most importantly, those who came to the World Cup and they went to speak good about it, beginning to come to South Africa. And of course, domestically, our leisure market, our people begin to travel when we start seeing the economy recovering as well.
I hate to say this, but in a way, we're also competing with other peripheral Eurozone countries which are currently in crisis. They're dropping their prices extensively. How do we start competing effectively? Are we in a good position right now, Roshene? And close your comments because we're almost out of time.
South Africa has always been in a good position. We've always had a great product. We've had value for money to offer the world. And I think we just have to continue being aggressive about it and work in partnership between government and the industry to make it work for all of us.
Is that the biggest issue right now, private sector and government
working together?
Working closer together.
Yes.
Gillian, closing comments.
I would agree with Roshene. The partnership is essential, and if you look at the other destinations that do a fantastic job of everything in tourism, they have a wonderful public-private sector partnership. It's getting government behind tourism beyond the Department of Tourism and beyond South African tourism, because tourism needs home affairs for visas, it needs transport for licensing of coach operators, for instance. It needs the airlines to come on board and to important players in the sector through the public enterprises. So that we need everything across the government departments, and it's getting that coordination and it's getting that priority across all the other government departments that tourism needs. That's the key to really making a success that we can do of this wonderful destination.
Unfortunately, we have to leave it there, ladies. Thank you so very much for joining us and for adding insights, and always great to have just ladies on the desk. Thank you so much. Well, that's all the time we have for this first South Africa Open for Business debate. We'll be back next month with a focus on business tourism. Until then, from me, Elni, Giokos, and the rest of the team, take care and goodbye.